My name is Judy Freeman Washington Green. I was one of the unfortunate students who was displaced by the 1957-1959 Central High School desegregation crisis when the schools were closed for 1 year. The 1 year lost from regular high school did deprive us from such things as senior prom, a class ring, yearbook, and other activities that are enjoyed by high school seniors. Governor Orville Faubus had ordered the Little Rock Senior High Schools, Horace Mann and Central, closed the fall semester of 1958 because 9 of my classmates, now known as the Little Rock Nine, attempted to integrate Central. After the schools were closed the fall semester of 1958, my family made plans to send me to Detroit, Michigan, where I had relatives. In January of 1959, to finish out the second semester, the word was out that seniors from Mann and Central in Little Rock, Arkansas, would not be allowed to enter many out-of-state schools. Certain states even required students to be at least 1 year residents in order to attend schools in their state. In January of 1959, Philander Smith College in Little Rock offered Mann High School seniors an opportunity to complete their high school units at that institution. After being screened and passing the regular college entrance examination, 6 of us entered Philander Smith College under these unusual circumstances. We were required to take regular college courses, but they were applied to our high school units to make up the units we lacked in order to graduate from high school. All hours earned over what was required to complete the high school units was applied to our freshman years in college. I attended Philander during the 1958, 1959, and 1959-1960 school years. I am thankful for an institution such as Philander Smith College.
In January of '59, Philander Smith College. Well, during that time also, Dr. T.J. Rainey, who was an associate of my doctor, who was B.T. Cobb, my primary care physician, Dr. Rainey he built a school for the Central High School students, for the Central High School seniors to go. And back at that time, in January of 1958, 59, I think, Philander Smith College offered an opportunity for Horace Mann seniors to complete their high school education there. And we had to take regular high school courses. Regular college courses. We had to take regular college entrance exams. We had to take regular college courses, and they were applied. The units that we needed to finish our high school education, those hours went towards our high school graduation. The rest of the units, the hours went towards our freshman year in college. And I attended Philander during the 58, 59, 59, 60 school year. I got married in 59, and which interrupted my college. In 1960, I started raising a family. So I returned to Philander in 1977, where I received a bachelor's degree in business administration with a minor in business education. And during that time, I finished real quick because during that time I was taking anywhere from 6 to 18 hours a semester because I was going to school at night and on weekends too. We had certain classes on weekends. But I'm really thankful for Philander, for the opportunity that they offered us, because most of my classmates a lot of them went to J.C. Cook in Wrightsville or Sweet Home or Wrightsville. They offered an opportunity for Horace Mann students to come there, the seniors to come there and finish. And that's where a lot of our classmates went. I went one day. And one thing is because they didn't offer a commercial class, which was shorthand, typing, and business, So I did not go back, but as I say, I went to Detroit, but I didn't stay very long because the schools were closed during that time. But that's about it. When Philander offered us an opportunity to come there to finish our classes, I went and finished there. And from there I went, it was a success story. Okay, I'll say that.
During the process of integration, what were your initial feelings?
Well, I was disappointed because I was a senior and I was slated to be captain of the cheerleaders. I was on the cheerleading squad of the Bearcats. And I was slated to be the captain of the cheerleading team during my senior year. So I was disappointed for that reason. And being out of school, not having an education, that was important to us then. Things were different back then than they are now. We're living in a different age now. We're living in a different era. The world is just not like it was when we were in school. And school was important to us right back then. And as a matter of fact, you had to go to school because your parents made you go to school too. 9 of my classmates went to Central and they had a hard time. And, naturally we felt for them. Many of our parents did not want us to go to Central. That's why there were only 9 of us whose the students plus their parents who were brave enough to go to Central. And I admire those 9 classmates of mine. But most of our parents worked under white employment. We're talking about the era of segregation. So most of our parents worked for white people. And they had fear of losing their jobs if they let their kids go to Central. So, but the energy was high. And we were very supportive of the 9 students who did attempt to go. I remember Reverend Harry Bass was very instrumental in that era. Reverend R.K. Young, R.K. Young was an AME minister. I'm an AME. But several of our ministers were involved in that. And they met with Daisy Bates and the students on numerous occasions. And they were there in the forefront all the time. The state prevented integration because Little Rock School District had no choice. The governor of the state, Orville E. Faubus, he closed the schools down. President Eisenhower had to send National Guard troops in here to protect the 9 students who went to Central. But it was chaos. It was chaos. I can tell you now, when we went to Philander, we went to Philander the year after. Philander opened their doors the year after. And now, like as I said, a lot of my classmates went to J.C. Cook. Some of our classmates went in the military. And because a lot of the other states didn't want Arkansas students coming there because of the crisis that we were having here. But I think the majority of our students stayed out for a whole year and came back, and they graduated with the class in the next year. After we still consider them as part of our class because we were called the class that should have been, but the state labeled us the lost class. So that's what we go along with, the lost class. But during the time when we were at Philander, during that next fall, we were trying to integrate the lunch counters downtown. Woolworths, Sterling's, those especially Woolworths. We were trying to integrate the lunch counters because of all of this disaster was going on, all the desegregation and all this. We were just trying to integrate everything. And I do remember that we had a lot of African students who went to school with us at Philander. And during the lunchtime, we would go down to McClellan, which was on Main Street. And we would take some of the African students with us. They thought the African students were better than the Black students. Yes. And we would send the African students in there to the lunch counter and they would let them sit down. And then when we would go in there, they would not serve us. So we demonstrated at McClellan. At the lunch counter down there. And it's been a long journey. I can tell you that. It's been a long journey. We only had 2 movies that we could go to. The Gym Theater was, of course, it was a Black movie. The New Theater was up on Wright Avenue. That was integrated. We could go to the New Theater. It was called the New, NEW. We had to sit in the balcony. And in North Little Rock, they had the Rialto Theater. We had to sit in the balcony at the Rialto Theater. So we've been through a lot, but it made us strong, some of us. But I was a strong woman and I was determined. I was determined to get my education. And I fought hard to stay in school. I worked during the summer. And I fought hard to go to school, stay in school. And I think the year that the schools were out, the parents were probably having headaches, having kids at home all day, every day. Well, I think number one, these young people don't have a clue what we went through. What we had to go through, the opportunities that they have now, they take it for granted. They have no idea the struggles that we had to even just get a simple education, or to, like you can go into the restaurants or the fast food stores or anywhere. We weren't even allowed to work at a store like McDonald's. We weren't, you didn't see any blacks in fast food stores. You didn't see any of us in the restaurants either. And now when you go in the restaurants, sometimes they don't want to be bothered. They act like they, that we owe them something. When you go in the restaurants, or not everybody, but generally, I've noticed that I said they don't want their job. There was a time when we couldn't get the job that they have, even making minimum wage. We were glad to get the job. I remember when I was in high school, I babysit for a couple over in Levy. She was a nurse and he was a trucker. And I used to babysit in the summer, during the summer months. I worked so that I couldn't wait to get my first paycheck and get my first little RCA Victrola. You play your records on. That was something that, that was just something that wasn't just given.
Mm-hmm.
We worked hard. And a lot of us worked during the summer months. I know that Daisy was very popular, and we knew that a lot of dignitaries came in here. Like I said, I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was still a high school student, so I was not invited into those meetings, but I was aware. As a matter of fact, Daisy Bates lived in my neighborhood. And as a matter of fact, her home is 3 blocks from me right now, from my home. Where I'm living now, used to be a white neighborhood. Daisy's home is the same home that they made it a museum down there, and it's still down there, the house that she lived in, and it's just right down the street from me. But yes, I do remember, because it was news. It was news when these dignitaries came in here. It was news. Everybody knew about it, and Mrs. Bates was very popular. Her husband was president of NAACP at the time. I think we're in a much better place than what we were, but we got a long ways to go still. I think there's still, and one of the things too, I think in the schools, especially the elementary schools, I think one of the things is we have equal education now. Some of the schools, I think in the black schools that they still probably have some of the older books, and materials that when they have in the other. When they went to Dunbar, I went to Dunbar High School. Dunbar at the time, Dunbar was a 7th through 12th grade. I went to Dunbar in the 7th grade, and I think it was 1956 when they built Horace Mann. And I was in the 9th grade when they built Horace Mann. That was the senior high school for blacks. Our class was the first class to graduate from Dunbar when it became a junior high school. And then the next year, the second year that Horace Mann was there, we went on over to Horace Mann in the 10th grade, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Yeah, well, I went to Old South End School, where the Thrasher Boys Club is now. South End School, and there are a bunch of little white buildings. There was one real long building. That was the 6th grade, the 2 6th grade teachers. I never remember. Sarah Rice and Minnie B. Hicks were the teachers in the 6th grade. They taught the 6th grade. Well, the rest of the classes we had, different classes, first, second, third grade. There were little small white buildings. It's right down there where Crumpus Park is now. And when they built Booker T. Washington, we moved from those little buildings over to Booker T. Washington School over on Main Street. Well, what they did is William Thrasher, Mr. Thrasher, who grew up in our neighborhood, when they tore down all the buildings, he asked them to keep the one long building that was a sixth grade class. And he turned it into a South End Boys Club. It was a South End Boys Club. Thrasher, he started the South End Boys Club, as a matter of fact. So after he died, he had been trying to get a new building for us out here for years for the kids in the South End. And after he died, they finally built a new building, and they named it after him, William Thrasher, which is still in existence. Yes, all my kids. I grew up in out there at that boys club. When he had the Thrasher Boys Club down there, it was for all the kids in the South End. And they had something going on every day, every evening after school. You had somewhere to go. On Friday nights, every Friday night, they had movies outdoors. And during the summer months, outdoors, they had movies outside on Friday nights. Halloween, they had Halloween parties. They, bobbed the apples, doing everything. Mr. Thrasher did a lot for the kids in the South End. When we went to Philander, we were called the transition class. The six of us, I sent you pictures of it.
Okay.
We were called the yearbook, the 59 yearbook, they had all of our pictures in there, and they called us the transition class. I don't know where they got that name from, but we transitioned from high school to college before we were ready to go to college, a year before we were supposed to be in college. And there was this young boy, his name was Roger Allen. And his father taught math at J.C. Cook, the school where some of my classmates went. He was 13 years old. He was a little genius. And they allowed him to go to Philander. He came to Philander with us. They allowed him in there. And he was smart. He was a smart young man. I sent you a picture of him also with his credentials. Because he really had some heavy credentials to be 13 years old. He acted childish. I remember Miss Torrance, when we were in our English class, he used to throw spitballs across the classroom. And Miss Torrance was our English teacher. She was very proper. And she says, "Young man, you're in college now. You have to act like college kids." But that's a legacy. There was a lot of my classmates, they didn't even know about it. They wanted to know, well, how did you all find out about it? And I don't remember how we found out about it. I don't know if the school reached out to us or if they reached out to the school or what, but I know there were 6 of us that went to Philander and finished our high school. Well, naturally, I was concerned about my classmates going in there because every day they were on the news showing how, and it really wasn't the white students, but it was the grown people who were causing all the problems. It wasn't the students, it was the adults, parents and adults. I mean, they were throwing things at them, and they would. Well, I'll have to let you talk to some of the Little Rock Nine to let you know what they went through with. They went through a lot. And we saw every bit of it on the news. So we were concerned about them. But what can we do? We were kids too. But when they were trying to get Horace Mann students to come, they had made an offer to several students. I don't remember how they approached us, but a lot of us were eligible to go, but the parents were afraid for the students to go. Our parents just were afraid. They were afraid for their kids to go. Plus, they were worried about losing their jobs. A lot of them were worried about losing their jobs. I found out later. A lot of the parents thought that they would lose because we were living in a segregated area.